Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to try to understand something that you, the listener, are curious about.
Yeah.
Why is it that the business world seems to be a little bit slow in adopting mobile apps when in our personal lives, they're so completely integrated?
Yeah.
And we're going to try to get some answers from a 2019 research study out of South Africa.
Great.
And the title is An Empirical Study of the Factors Affecting the Adoption of Mobile Enterprise Applications.
Right.
And I think you're going to find some of the results a little bit surprising. For instance, one of the things they found is that tech infrastructure was not the biggest barrier.
Okay.
You might think that would be the case.
I think so, yeah.
But it wasn't.
Okay.
And also assumptions that people have about leadership demographics and their attitude toward adopting technology.
Yeah.
Some of those assumptions were debunked.
Okay.
So it's a really interesting study.
Very cool. Let's dive in.
First of all, we should probably define what we're talking about here.
Right.
So what are mobile enterprise applications? What do we actually mean by that term?
Yeah. It's a mouthful, isn't it?
It is.
Mobile Enterprise Applications, or MEAs.
MEAs.
But think of it as like the apps that you use every day for work.
Right.
So project management tools like Asana, Trello.
Okay.
Customer relationship management, CRM systems like Salesforce, even communication platforms like Slack.
Yeah.
All these things are basically software that are designed to streamline tasks and boost efficiency on mobile devices.
Yeah.
And the things that it can do for a business are amazing.
I mean, just imagine.
Like, think about this.
Go ahead.
You've got field technicians, right?
Okay.
And they need to look up an equipment manual. They can do it right there on their phone.
Wow.
Or a sales team that needs to update client data.
Okay.
They can do it instantly, in real time, from their tablet, anywhere.
Wow, I'm already seeing huge possibilities.
I know, right? Or project managers coordinating tasks seamlessly from their smartphone.
It just seems like
it's powerful stuff.
It would improve productivity tremendously.
It really could.
So that's the power of MEAs.
Absolutely.
That's the potential.
Yes.
And yet,
yeah.
this study is suggesting that it's not happening as quickly or as extensively as you might expect.
Right.
So what did they find out? Let's dig into that.
Okay, well, so they talked to 60 companies in South Africa across a bunch of different industries. But the ones that were most represented were telecommunications, technology, the internet electronics, finance and financial services, and manufacturing.
Okay, so those are the ones that they talked to mostly.
Yeah.
And what were some of their key findings?
Okay, so they found 4 things that they said really mattered when it came to a company deciding whether or not they were going to adopt these mobile enterprise applications. The first one was something they call performance utility.
Performance utility.
The second one was technology usability. The third was external environment. And then the last one was enterprise readiness.
Interesting.
Yeah, so 4 big buckets.
Okay, let's break those down a little bit, starting with that first one.
Okay.
What is performance utility? What does that mean?
Okay, so when a company's trying to decide whether or not they're going to invest in some kind of technology, they want to know, how is this going to affect our bottom line?
Right.
Is this going to make us more money? Is this going to save us money? Basically, is there a return on investment that's demonstrably going to improve our performance?
Yeah.
So what they were looking at is that they want to see a clear link between using this technology and improvements to the bottom line.
Okay, so some concrete ways that this could be demonstrated.
So some of the things they were talking about were reducing latency or communication.
Okay, so it's happening faster.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Improving team coordination, streamlining operations.
Okay, so those were like some of the quantifiable gains
exactly.
that would resonate with business leaders.
Absolutely, because if you can say, look, if we implement this technology, we're going to save this much money, or we're going to make this much more money, then it's a no-brainer, right?
Right. So for a company like the one that you're with, where efficiency is obviously very important, how
do you think that faster communication, better coordination, streamlined operations,
I mean,
how would that impact your day-to-day work?
It would be a huge time saver.
Yeah.
And it would boost productivity because we're not waiting around.
Exactly.
It would also allow us to be much more agile and responsive to client needs, which is so essential in a really competitive market.
That's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
Staying ahead of the curve.
Yeah, so those are some pretty concrete benefits.
Huge benefits.
That would fall under that umbrella of performance utility.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's move on to the second one then, which was technology usability.
Right.
Now I'm guessing that's all about user-friendliness.
It is.
How easy it is to use, how intuitive the interface is.
Right.
How easy it is to integrate with your existing systems.
Yeah.
What the learning curve is going to be for your team.
All of that.
All of that.
Because, if you've got a system that's clunky,
right,
that's hard to learn.
Yeah.
That requires extensive training. That disrupts all your established workflows.
Right.
It's going to meet resistance.
People aren't going to want to use it.
Even if you know.
Right. Yeah.
Theoretically, it's going to bring all these great benefits.
It just becomes a burden rather than a solution.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So for you, as someone who values efficiency and seamless integration,
right,
how important would that technology usability factor be for you?
Oh, it's essential.
Yeah.
Like you said, if it adds extra steps, if it disrupts existing processes, it defeats the whole purpose.
You're not gaining anything. You're just adding an extra layer of frustration.
Exactly.
So it has to be intuitive.
Right.
It has to integrate seamlessly.
It has to feel like it's part of the workflow.
Not like some kind of add-on.
Absolutely.
That's just making life more difficult.
Right.
Okay, so that's technology usability.
Yes.
Now what about this third one, the external environment? What do they mean by that?
Okay, so this is all about the pressures that are coming from outside the company that can influence their decision to adopt these MEAs.
I'm sure.
So things like...
Well, think about it. Industry trends, right?
Okay. What are your competitors doing?
Exactly.
What's the overall technological landscape?
Okay, so...
If your industry is moving in a certain direction and everyone's benefiting from this, then you feel pressure.
Right.
To keep up.
To keep up.
And if you don't keep up, you lose your edge.
You're going to fall behind, yeah.
Absolutely.
Potentially even lose market share?
Could be.
So there's that pressure.
Right.
But also customer expectations.
Oh, absolutely.
Because now clients are used to using mobile apps in their personal lives.
You're right. It's so integrated.
So they're starting to expect that same level of convenience and accessibility from the companies that they're doing business with.
It just makes sense.
Right. So that's also part of that external environment.
Absolutely.
It's about staying relevant.
Yes.
Meeting those evolving customer demands.
Totally.
Okay, so now we've got this last one.
Okay.
Which is enterprise readiness.
Enterprise readiness.
Yeah, it sounds like it's about the internal capacity of the company.
It is to implement these changes
successfully. So it's all about...
So it's like the foundation.
It's the foundation, yeah.
That needs to be in place.
Has to be there.
For successful implementation.
And what's really interesting is they broke enterprise readiness down into 4 sub-factors.
Okay.
So it's not just this one thing. There are 4 things to consider.
Okay, and what are they?
So the first one is IT infrastructure.
Okay, that one seems pretty straightforward.
It seems that way, but it's more than just gadgets. You know, it's about making sure that your hardware, your software, your network can actually support these new mobile enterprise applications.
Okay.
So it might involve upgrades, security enhancements.
Okay.
You might even have to rethink your data storage and your management strategies.
So it's really like a holistic
assessment, a deep dive into your tech landscape.
And how compatible it's going to be.
Exactly. With these new mobile applications.
That's it.
Okay, so that's IT infrastructure. The next one is...
organizational policies?
Organizational policies and processes.
Right. And processes, right?
Now, I think this is where...
This is where it gets tricky.
It's going to get tricky.
Yes, because... You're talking about compatibility.
Yeah.
Are your processes mobile friendly?
Right. Are they ready?
Are you going to have to do a complete overhaul of how you do things?
Yeah, that could be.
That could be a huge undertaking.
A huge undertaking.
And companies need to be ready for that.
So it's not just about...
It's not plug and play.
Plug and play.
It's about analyzing how it's going to integrate with everything you already do.
Right. And possibly even redesigning... some of your processes.
Maybe all of them.
To maximize the benefits.
Exactly, because if you're just going to plug it in and it's not going to work with anything you're already doing,
you're not going to get...
You're going to have a mess.
The benefit? Okay, so then we've got this human element.
The people.
Which is employee knowledge and readiness.
That's right.
And this seems...
This is huge.
Absolutely crucial.
Because even if you have the best tech...
Yeah.
If your people can't use it...
Right.
Or they don't want to use it...
it's not going to work.
It's a waste.
So it's about having a workforce that is...
That's tech-savvy, yeah.
Tech-savvy, but also...
enthusiastic.
Enthusiastic.
About using this new tech.
Right, and you have to think about...
Do they have the skills?
Do they have the skills?
Are they open to it?
Are they going to embrace it?
They want to learn.
So this is where training and communication
Absolutely.
and fostering a culture that embraces innovation comes in.
It's crucial.
So it's this combination of technical skills and also mindset.
Mindset is huge.
That's receptive to change.
Total.
Okay, and then the last one.
The last one, yeah.
Organizational resources.
Resources, that's the practical stuff.
The practical stuff.
Do you have the budget for the technology? Do you have technical support?
Okay.
If something breaks,
do
you have people who can train?
To train everybody up.
All that stuff.
So it's about having
the money, the people.
The money, the people.
All the resources.
To make it happen.
To make it work.
It sounds like there's a lot to consider.
There is a lot.
So when the study looked at all of these sub-factors of enterprise readiness, did they come up with any surprising findings?
Oh, there were some.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
Let's delve into those.
Okay, so one of the interesting things they found was that the size of the company didn't really matter.
What do you mean?
So, like, you might think that a bigger company would be more likely to adopt these mobile enterprise applications because they've got more resources.
Right. That was kind of my initial thought, too.
Yeah, you'd think that...
That it would be the early adopters would be the big companies.
Right.
But that wasn't the case.
Not necessarily. Yeah. And they thought that maybe it's because everybody uses mobile technology so much in their personal lives that it kind of levels the playing field.
Right. So it's not such a foreign concept to a smaller business.
Yeah. And in fact, smaller companies are often more agile.
Right. They can pivot more quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe they can even integrate things faster.
That could be.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So size of the company didn't really matter.
Not so much.
What about the people at the top?
Okay.
The leadership team.
Yeah.
Did they find any correlation?
Like demographics.
Yeah, like the leader's demographics.
The age, gender.
Education level.
Education. You'd think.
You'd think, right.
That a younger leader would be more likely to be tech savvy.
Yeah, more on top of the trends.
More on top of the trends and say, yeah, let's do this.
Right, let's jump in, let's be innovative.
But that's not what they found.
No.
That's not what they found. They said it really didn't seem to make much of a difference.
Wow.
The leaders' demographics.
So it's really more about their overall attitude
for
technology and innovation.
That's it.
Whether they're open to it or not.
Exactly.
Okay, that's fascinating.
It is interesting.
So it's not about their age, it's not about their background.
It's about whether they want to try new things.
Right. Are they willing to explore new possibilities?
Embrace the change.
And embrace change, exactly. Okay, so that kind of ties into what they were saying about future research.
Yeah.
Looking into the influence of the company's overall culture.
Yes.
Right? So how
open are they to change as a whole?
Right. Not just the leader.
Not just one person.
The whole company.
The whole organization, yeah.
So their suggestion was that a company's approach to innovation in general might be a much more significant factor than we realize.
Much bigger than we think.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. It's like the DNA of the company, you know.
It's who they are.
Are they willing to experiment?
Are they risk takers?
Are they risk takers? Are they going to just try things and see what happens?
See what sticks.
Right.
Exactly.
So if you imagine two companies and they have the same amount of resources.
Okay.
They have similar expertise. But one of them is all about experimenting.
Right. They're like, let's try it. Why not?
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
And the other one is very risk averse.
Yeah. Very cautious.
They want to stick with what they know.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's right.
Right?
Which one of those is going to be more successful?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, in adopting and using these MEAs.
Yeah, the one that's willing to try new things.
Exactly, because they're going to see the potential.
They're going to be excited about it.
They're going to be excited about it.
They're not going to be scared of the change.
And they're going to be more comfortable with the changes.
Yeah, totally.
That it might bring.
They're also going to be better at adapting as the technology changes.
Because technology changes so quickly.
All the time.
So you've got to be willing to keep up with that.
Absolutely.
And that's a big insight, I think, that it's not just about implementing the technology. It's about having a culture that embraces innovation.
Yes.
Encourages experimentation.
Try it. See what happens.
Yeah, and views technology as a strategic asset.
That's the key, right?
Right?
It's not just a tool.
Yeah.
It can transform your business.
Yeah, it can really help you grow.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's a really powerful idea.
It is.
It's not just about the tech, it's about the mindset.
Whole mindset, yeah.
So the other area for future research they suggested was to look at the actual usage over time.
Yeah, so it's one thing to say, yeah, we're open to it.
Right.
But are you actually using it?
And are you using it effectively?
Exactly.
So it's not just about are you open to adopting it?
Right. Are you actually getting value from it?
But how do your attitudes change?
How do you use it over time?
Yeah. It's like the long game.
Right.
It's not just about the beginning.
Yeah, so they really highlighted that we need to move beyond measuring the intent to adopt.
Yes.
And really look at the usage.
The actual usage.
Over time, over time, yeah.
So how do they use it?
How do they use it?
And how do their feelings about it change?
Do they love it?
Yeah. Do they hate it? Are they indifferent?
Do they want more of it? Do they want less of it?
Right.
Right.
So that's the story that's really going to unfold as these MEAs become
more integrated
into our work lives.
Yeah.
Okay, now speaking of unexpected turns.
Oh, yes.
The study brought up something called isomorphic pressures, leading to a productivity paradox.
Right, so sometimes pressure to adopt technology can backfire.
Okay, that's kind of counterintuitive.
It is a little bit, but let's think about it.
Okay.
So, sometimes there's a certain technology that becomes like the must-have thing in an industry.
Okay, so everybody's doing it.
Everybody's doing it.
So there's this pressure.
Huge pressure.
To conform.
Yeah, to be on trend.
To be on trend, to be seen as innovative.
To look good.
Right, so it's like
keeping up with the Joneses.
Keeping up with the Joneses, but in the tech world.
Exactly.
Okay.
But here's the thing.
Uh-oh.
Sometimes they adopt these technologies without really thinking about whether it's right for them.
Okay.
Or if they even need it.
Right, so they're just doing it.
Because everyone else is doing it.
Because it looks good.
Exactly.
Okay.
So what happens? They end up with this new shiny thing that doesn't really help them at all.
Doesn't make anything better, might even make things worse.
Could even hurt.
Okay.
So they're focused on the appearance.
Right.
Not the substance.
Not what it actually does.
Exactly, and that's the productivity paradox.
Okay.
They're doing it for the validation.
Right.
Not for the actual value.
Not for the actual value, wow.
So they end up wasting resources.
Right. People get frustrated.
The employees hate it.
And it actually decreases productivity.
Yeah. The opposite of what they wanted.
The opposite of what they wanted. Wow.
So it's a cautionary tale.
It is.
Think before you jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah. Make sure it's actually going to be beneficial.
Does it align with your goals?
Right.
Do you have the capacity to implement it?
Can you actually use it?
Exactly.
Okay. So really important to be thoughtful.
Be deliberate.
And not just impulsive.
Don't just jump in because everybody else is doing it.
Right. So it really highlights all those factors that we were talking about before.
All of them.
Performance utility, technology usability.
The external environment. And enterprise readiness. All four of them.
Okay. So speaking of enterprise readiness.
Okay.
Let's go back to the IT infrastructure.
That first one, yeah.
They said that widespread access to 4G and LTE networks might be a factor in why IT infrastructure wasn't as big of a barrier.
Right, because everybody's got good connectivity these days.
Right.
But as the need for more secure data transfers increases, that could change.
Right, so basic connectivity might not be enough.
Right, if you're dealing with sensitive information, you're going to need more.
So it's not just about having the technology of today.
Right.
It's about thinking about what you're going to need in the future.
Absolutely.
And being prepared for those challenges.
Right. Be proactive.
Be proactive. Okay.
So that applies to all those aspects of enterprise readiness, right?
Right. Assess your current capabilities, anticipate future needs.
Think ahead.
And be prepared to adapt.
Because technology is always changing.
It's a moving target.
It is.
Okay, so we talked about those pressures, right?
Yeah.
The competition.
Keeping up with the Joneses.
Keeping up with the Joneses.
Right.
But it's not just about keeping up. It's also about
seizing the opportunity.
Okay, tell me more about that.
So think about it.
Okay.
Your competitors are using these MEAs to streamline their operations, to reach new customers, to offer new services. And you're not, you're basically letting them control the game.
So you're playing catch up.
You are.
And instead of being the innovator.
Exactly.
Okay.
But if you use these MEAs strategically, you can become the innovator.
Okay.
You can be the one setting the trends.
Okay.
So it's about turning that pressure into an opportunity.
So it's not just about reacting.
Right.
It's about
Being proactive.
Being proactive.
Setting the agenda.
Right. So understanding that external environment. Yeah. Being aware of what's happening in your industry.
What your competitors are doing.
What your competitors are doing.
What your customers want.
What your customers want. And then using that.
To your advantage.
To your advantage.
Exactly.
Okay. So now we're talking.
Now we're talking.
So some of the specific benefits.
Okay. So they highlighted a few.
Okay. Let's hear them.
So one of the biggest ones is reducing latency.
Which means?
Things happen faster.
Okay.
You can communicate faster. You can make decisions faster.
So that's a big advantage in today's business world.
Huge advantage.
Time is money.
Time is money, exactly.
Yeah. Right.
So it allows companies to be more agile, more responsive.
More competitive?
More competitive, that's it.
Okay.
They also talked about enhancing coordination.
So, like, between departments?
Between different teams, different departments, different locations, even.
So breaking down silos.
Breaking down silos, exactly.
Okay.
So these MEAs can connect people across all kinds of boundaries.
Yeah.
So they can share information more seamlessly.
Right. Their workflows are streamlined.
It all works together.
It all works together.
Okay, that's great.
And then the third one.
Okay.
Improving operational and workforce efficiency.
So basically doing more?
Doing more with less.
With less, okay. So streamlining workflows, automating tasks, giving employees the tools they need to be more productive.
So working smarter, not harder.
That's it.
Okay.
And that's where the real value comes in, I think.
Okay.
It's not just about the technology.
Right.
It's about how it changes the way a company operates.
Right. Empowers the employees.
And ultimately drives success.
So it really is about leveraging this technology to create a better
company.
More effective, more efficient.
More successful
company.
That's what it's all about.
So that brings us back to our original question.
Yeah.
Why aren't more companies going mobile?
Right. Why is this so hard?
It sounds like it's not that they don't understand the benefits.
No, I think they get it.
But it's the implementation.
Yeah, the implementation is tough.
It's complex.
It is.
It requires a lot of planning.
A lot of thought.
A lot of thought.
And a willingness to change.
Right. So they have to understand the potential benefits.
Yeah.
But also be realistic about the challenges.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's not just a technology solution.
It's not just about the app.
It's a strategic lever that can really impact the whole company.
The whole thing.
The operations, the culture.
How you do business.
Yeah. Ultimately, the success of the company.
That's the goal.
That's the goal. And that's a really powerful insight to take forward as we move into our final part of our deep dive.
Absolutely.
So we've talked about a lot of different things in this deep dive, and it feels like we've really gone deep, you know?
We have.
So what are the key takeaways here for me as a listener? What are the things that I should really be thinking about based on my interests and what this research has shown us?
Well, I think one of the most important things to remember is that there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Right. It's not as simple as just finding the best app and saying, okay, we're done.
Exactly. It's about figuring out what your specific needs are.
Right.
What are your goals? What are the challenges that you're facing? And then finding the right technology to address those things.
So remember those 4 factors that we talked about? The performance utility, the technology usability, the external environment, and the enterprise readiness.
Right. Those are your guideposts.
Okay, so before I even start thinking about what specific app I might want to use, I really need to ask myself those questions, like what performance improvements am I hoping to achieve? How easy is this technology to use? And how easy is it going to be to integrate it into the systems that we already have in place? And what are the external pressures that are influencing my decision? And is my company really ready to embrace this change?
Yeah, those are the questions that you need to be thinking about.
Okay, so that leads to the second takeaway then, which is you need to be strategic about this.
You do. You can't just jump on the bandwagon because everybody else is doing it.
Right. It's got to be a good fit for you and for your company.
It's got to make sense for you.
It can't just be about following trends.
No.
It's got to be about making informed decisions that are going to help you achieve your business goals.
Absolutely. So MEA adoption should be a process, a thought-out process.
Right.
Where you understand the benefits, but also the challenges.
Right. And that brings us back to enterprise readiness, right?
Yeah.
Can you just remind me again what that encompasses?
So it's all about having the foundation you need to successfully adopt these MEAs.
Okay.
And we talk about those 4 sub-factors: the IT infrastructure, the organizational processes, employee knowledge, and organizational resources.
Right.
If any of those are missing, you're going to run into problems.
Right. So even before I start evaluating specific apps, I need to look at my own company and say, Are we ready for this?
Yeah, do a little self-assessment.
Be honest with yourself. Yeah.
So ask yourself, are our systems compatible? Do we have the right people in place to support this? Are our employees going to be open to it? Are they going to be excited about it?
Those are tough questions.
They are tough questions, but you have to ask them.
You do. It's better to figure it out now than later. Right, because if you run into problems down the road, it's going to be a lot harder to fix them.
Exactly. So be honest with yourself, even if it's uncomfortable.
Okay, so that brings us to our third key takeaway, which is the importance of company culture.
Yeah, we've been talking about that all along.
It keeps coming up.
It does, and it's really important.
It's so important.
Because if you don't have the right culture, it's not going to work.
Even if you have the best technology, the best plan,
it's not enough.
If the people aren't on board.
Right. It's about the people, the culture, the mindset.
So successful MEA adoption, it's not just about checking boxes.
No.
It's about leadership, communication, and creating an environment where your employees feel like they can experiment, they can learn, they can grow.
Yeah, it's about continuous adaptation, continuous evolution.
Right, so change is seen as a good thing, not a bad thing.
Embrace the change.
Okay, and that leads to the final takeaway, which is really thought-provoking. And it comes from the study's recommendation to look at the long-term impact of these MEAs.
Yes, how do they change things over time?
Right. How do people's reactions to them change over time?
Yeah, because we're really just at the beginning of this.
We are.
We've talked about what drives adoption, but the real story is how these MEAs become part of the company.
Right. How do they change the way people work? How do they change the way people communicate? How do they change the whole organization?
Right, because they're not just tools.
No.
They're catalysts for change.
And that change can be huge.
It can change everything.
The way the company operates, the culture of the company, even the identity of the company.
It's a journey.
It is.
And it's just beginning.
So I want to leave you with this final thought.
Okay.
How might your company's culture towards innovation, its willingness to experiment, and its willingness to adapt, how might those things impact its success with mobile technology?
That's a good question.
And how might MEAs, in turn, change that culture?
Yeah, how do they work together?
Right, so it's this feedback loop.
It is.
Of continuous transformation.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it.
It really is.
So keep exploring.
Yeah.
Remember, it's not just about the technology.
It's about the people.
The processes, the culture, the vision.
And with the right approach.
Yeah.
These MEAs can really open up a world of possibilities.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for guiding me through this deep dive.
It's been my pleasure.
It's really given me a whole new perspective on mobile technology and what it can do, and some ideas about how I can navigate this really exciting world. And to everyone listening, we hope this has inspired you to think a little bit differently about MEAs and what they can do for you and for your business.
Yeah, it's not just about the tech.
It's about how you use it to transform your business and your people.
Absolutely.
So until next time, keep diving.